Democrats' policy, law, and disorder. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. Yeah, that's right. The Democrats have abandoned any fidelity to ordered liberty, which the Constitution guarantees. Instead, they weaponize the law, at least at the federal level, to proceed against their political enemies. This is tin pot dictator type stuff, of course, but at the local level, they now do what no tin pot dictator ever risked. They allow petty thieves, assailants, and even murderers to do what they will with impunity. When they do that, they give further impetus to a great sortation, this time between the lawful and the lawless. Before I begin today's civics lesson, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of good merchandise there, especially this t-shirt I have chosen for today, which reads, "As we're redefining everything, this is a cordless hole punch." Well, no, this isn't entirely about gun control, although I will mention it in passing. This is about the lawless state of the streets of our largest cities and who is responsible for that. One more thing. If you like what you're about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, you see the new icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep those videos coming, click that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do. First, let's update ourselves on the activities of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You all heard me talk at length about the raid on a former president's house, in which their agents rifled the closets and dressers of the lady of the house. We now hear that the FBI on Thursday, September 8th, laid on 35 raids on persons allied with President Trump. I have links in the description to 3 separate tweets attesting to that story. This comes after a federal judge ordered the FBI to stop using materials they took in that raid on Trump's house until the special master has had a chance to examine them for attorney-client and executive privilege. As such, it represents a brazen escalation of the struggle to stop a former president from becoming president again. Now, speaking of special masters, Trump's lawyers and the Department of Justice each submitted pairs of candidates for the job. But when it came to drafting the orders setting forth the special master's duties and authority, the Justice Department clearly decided they were going to troll the judge. I have a link in the description to the so-called joint filing by Trump's legal eagles and the U.S. Attorney and his staff, so you can see for yourselves. Specifically, the DOJ still is trying to hide several documents from the public and even from the special master. You know what I think? I think Judicial Watch needs to file a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit to reveal those documents. Now, this also comes after the incumbent president made a speech that, to some, brought back memories of arguably the worst and bloodiest tyrant of the last century. A tyrant who shall remain nameless. I thought it looked more like the act of a certain Roman senator and senior counsel who set the precedent for trampling on civil liberties in the name of state security. And how ironic that is, given Cicero's many, many speeches against the government and for the liberties of ordinary citizens. Now, who could forget this memorable quote? Inter arma enim silant leges. Translation, in time of war the laws fall silent. Well, Cicero should know, considering how he handled the Catilinarian affair, but he also wrote the playbook on abuse of national emergency powers. Joe Biden, Democrat, is following that playbook, and various social media are full of modern Ciceros. and Cato's too. Senator Marcus Porcius Cato, to his shame, was the loudest voice for executing Roman citizens without trial in that episode. And in the very next year, Cato involved himself in a false flag pseudo-operation to incite a riot on the Roman Forum steps. He did this to discredit his favorite enemy, Julius Caesar, who was at the time Urban Praetor, Rome's Chief Justice. Now, some of the snide comments peppering all the major social media sites echo Cato in word and tone. Did those people not realize that the FBI, if they should come after they could come after a former president and his allies this way, could come after any of them just as easily? Or did they repose absolute confidence that the FBI would never turn against them because they represent the people? We now turn to Exhibit B, the disorder that Democratic mayors and governors shamelessly allow in their states and cities. Portland, Oregon is typical of the end game, if not of the present situation in those states and cities. The mayor there has let homeless persons trespass where they will and criminals rob and burglarize with impunity. I have a link in the description to a tweet showing some instructive pictures out of Portland. It's gotten to the point where businesses are selling out at a loss. We're not just talking about an ex-migration. This is an evacuation from an untenable situation. And now the state of Illinois decided to make things an order of magnitude worse. This year, their legislature passed a bill with a totally false name, the SAFETY Act. That acronym stands for Safety, Accountability, Fairness, and Equity Today. It abolishes cash bail and replaces it with a system requiring snap judgments on the danger any given suspect poses to specific others or the community at large. A judge has 48 hours to make the call, and then the suspect walks. This act also classifies some fairly violent offenses as literally non-detainable. Let's run down the list. We have aggravated battery, then aggravated DUI. That literally means driving under the influence of drugs, alcohol, or both. Then aggravated fleeing. Now, I'm not talking about running away. I'm talking about driving like a maniac with the cops in hot pursuit and hitting 21 miles per hour or faster over the posted speed limit. Now, that's pretty serious stuff. Somebody could get rammed that way. And then we have, whoa, arson, burglary, drug-induced homicide, intimidation, kidnapping, robbery, which implies the threat of force or violence, second-degree murder, and threatening a public official. Very interesting, especially that last one. I'll get to that in a minute. I have a link in the description to a video of several mayors and prosecuting attorneys talking about the very serious consequences to their jurisdictions come January of 2023. Before I go any further, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor's name is rsilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You're not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Now, whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins, or take advantage of the business opportunities that company provides, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit rsilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. Now, you heard the list of non-detainable offenses. Now, releasing suspects in cases that are on that list would be bad enough, even if law-abiding residents could arm themselves for self-defense. But this is Illinois. Gun control in Illinois isn't quite as bad as in the may-issue states of California, Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York, but it's close. and Governor J.D. Pritzker wants to get it even closer. Worse, most of these crimes will occur in Chicago and other big cities, whose mayors have all but disarmed their law-abiding residents. And it gets even worse than that. Police will no longer physically remove trespassers from anyone's home or yard. Now, this goes beyond burglary and robbery. Now we're talking about adverse possession. So, what does this mean in practice? It means that the government will implement these maxims of cultural Marxism that no one cares to repeat out loud. First, a thief is an irregular wealth redistribution agent. Second, a trespasser is an irregular housing redistribution agent. Now that last part recalls something interesting. Do any of you remember a film titled Dr. Zhivago, produced by David Lean, starring Omar Sharif, Julie Christie, and Alec Guinness, based on the novel by Boris Pasternak? Well, there's a scene in which a neighborhood block director is supervising the literal clearing out of several rooms in a house in the middle of Moscow. This being just after the revolution, you understand. And she says to the owner, "Now you're going to live like the rest of us." That's what this reminds me of. The only difference here is that this new law lets people take what they want without some block director telling them it's okay. Either way, it leaves owners without recourse. The only equity for which this law provides is a Marxist notion of equity in distribution of material goods. Beyond that, this law gives neighborhood bullies a free license to go on bullying. Although, I expect to see selective application of this law, especially that part about threatening a public official. Well, that'll all depend on whether said official is a Democrat or a Republican, and then it will depend on whether the higher-ups have made a decision that the official involved is a liability and it's worth a sacrifice to excuse some larger crackdown. Well, that's the story. Now we have to decide, what are we going to do about this? Well, vote, that's what. Midterms are coming up. And that gives freedom lovers a chance to vote against weaponization of the law. Several prominent Republicans in the House of Representatives have already promised investigations and multiple oversight committees. But, except in the off-year states of New Jersey and Virginia, this also gives voters their last chance to vote for law and order. If they don't take it, well, they might as well do one of two things. Either sell their homes and businesses at heavy losses, or worse, walk away from mortgages and lease contracts. Then they just move out of town and out of state, lock, stock, and barrel. And after that, the criminal element will celebrate their great victory right until the time the city infrastructures collapse from lack of maintenance. This will result not only from lack of funding, but also from lack of warm bodies to do the jobs. Because those who have the brains to fix things and keep them fixed will have moved out. Get the picture? Now, when this happens, this will leave many states underpopulated, but still enjoying outsized influence in the House of Representatives. The Census Bureau has already admitted overcounting the populations of 8 states and undercounting those of 6 others. Ironically, Illinois is one of the states they undercounted. The Epoch Times estimates that the overcounting and undercounting have already distorted representation in the House of Representatives. Florida, which gained a seat, should have gained 3. Likewise, Texas, which gained 2, should also have gained 3. Minnesota and Rhode Island had no choice, but they each should have lost 1. And Colorado, which picked up a seat, should never have been allowed to do that. Now, if the evacuations of states like Oregon, Illinois, New York, and California continue, well, the imbalance is only going to get worse. And in that case, the presidential election could decide whether to do another census earlier than 2030. A census needs about a year of preparation to recruit the crews. So, if a new president authorizes it in 2025, they could make it happen in 2026. States would then redraw district lines in 2028 as well as in 2032. A census is expensive, so authorizing a mid-decade census is no light matter. But a sudden ex-migration from 4 of the most populous states in the Union, I'd say would justify it. Once again, we're seeing the Great Sortation getting more impetus, but we also see another issue to emphasize at this midterms. That issue is selective application of the law and the destruction of America by the facilitation of disorder. Law and disorder. Link in the description of the article to those 3 tweets confirming the 35 more FBI raids, to the PDF of that joint filing in the Trump special master motion, to the tweet having the pictures from Portland, Oregon, to the video showing the mayors and prosecuting attorneys in Illinois saying what's going to go down with the Safety Act, and to conservative news and views. I've also left a link to the awesome CNAV Store and to oursilverlines.com, as I also mentioned. You already know about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link. I'm going to leave a direct link to that video I told you about the Illinois mayors and county attorneys saying what's going to happen with the Safety Act, and to a couple of other videos that I've already teed up about what we really need to talk about in this election campaign. This is Terry A. Hurlbut, delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.